Greetings, I am Herbert Erpaderp, and you are please insert name here. And it is once again time for Ask a Herbert Erpaderp. Before I start on the questions, somebody, I've forgotten who, sorry, suggested in stream chat the other day that I do another Ask a Herbert Erpaderp with Barnaby. I was going to mention this last week, but I forgot about it because braining is hard, but now I've remembered. So if you have any questions for Barnaby, who you all know is a very sensible boy, feel free to put them in the comment section or Discord. And be sure to specify that the question is for Barnaby, otherwise he won't answer it. Okay, to this week's questions. Postapo Gestapo said, "What's the worst injury you've ever had?" Mine was hitting a sharp edge of the table at full speed, of a 4-year-old brat that I was, and cracking my head. Yeah. Also, do you know that you're pronouncing Zvezda wrong? Okay, it's not wrong in English, but the original name is supposed to be said like Zvezda or Zvjezda, or something like that lol. I've been pretty lucky not to do myself any serious injuries so far, and I'm hoping to keep it that way. The worst I've done was fracture my elbow one day walking home from work when I fell down an embankment. Rather than going to the doctor, I went out that night and got very drunk. The next morning was horrible, and I found it pretty frustrating being unable to play my bass while it healed. I've also had a ruptured eardrum, which is quite unpleasant too, but I can't decide which is the worst of the two. And about Zvezda, I guess it's a good thing that I'm saying it in English then. The Tourette's Gamer said, "Would you ever consider rats?" And there's a couple of images of some adorable rats. I have considered rats, they do seem like pretty cool pets, and I believe they're much happier to be handled and hang around with humans. They do take up a bit more space though, which is the main reason I haven't got one. Mice can happily live in much smaller enclosures, though I can see myself getting at least one rat sometime when I have more space. Top Bunk Productions said, "Herbert, I have another question. A sensible question. A question that will tax your IQ to its very limits and stretch the sinews of your knowledge to bursting point. The question is this: given that God is infinite, and that the universe is also infinite, would you like a toasted tea cake?" Yeah, sure, why not? I am kind of hungry. Some dude said, "Thoughts on Fallout 76? And do you think you would get it?" I'm pretty excited. I love Fallout games and I'm pretty keen on another one. I don't really know all that much about it and I try not to build up expectations too much. It seems like a lot of people are worried about the online part, and I totally get that. I would want to play it single player for the most part too, without the annoyance of some rando coming along and shitting things up. But the idea of base building and interaction with other players in a similar vein to Rust is also kind of appealing to me. I don't think it would be quite as bad as Rust. The E3 presentation said it was more like softcore survival and there won't be more than a handful of people on the server anyway, so it doesn't seem like there's a lot of risk involved. I also heard that there aren't going to be any human NPCs, which makes sense because the player is amongst the first to leave the vault, but that sounds like it would make for a lack of quests and such. I don't really know, and I don't really have the energy to read through everything everyone is saying. There's a lot of speculation, a lot of which is probably based on little more than assumptions. I'm going to reserve judgment until the game is closer to release, and that's not until November. I would expect there is still work being done on the game, so maybe now isn't really the right time to get too worried. I will almost certainly get the game. I actually really want the Power Armor edition or whatever they're calling it. I want the helmet and especially the miniatures, but it's some $300, which is a bit rich for me, and so I probably won't pre-order it at all. I don't really see the point in pre-ordering the base game. And this time I would actually like to know what that base game is actually going to be like before buying it. All of that said, I'm pretty excited for new Fallout. Smose said, "I was in the model shop the other day and they have recently started stocking Vallejo model colour at £2.49 a bottle, $4.40 Australian. Is that a good price or is it quite steep?" It seems a decent enough price to me. I would expect to pay something around that price here, maybe up to $5 Australian a bottle, but then we might be paying the "fuck you Australia" tax that applies to pretty much everything here, and maybe that makes my perspective a little bit skewed. I'm not entirely sure what the going rate in physical stores here is, but that seems about right. Duncanuva said, would you build a Bob Semple tank if it had a model kit set? I would. Surely there are some scale models of such a unique vehicle out there. But I guess maybe you mean a wargaming kit. I would totally buy one, especially if it was available in plastic. Smoes said, was the Revell HMS Ark Royal a good buy or was it awful to build? As I think is evidenced in certain parts of the video, it wasn't the most enjoyable build. Not the worst though. If it's available for a very cheap price, I would say go for it, especially if you want the challenge of putting together something old and fiddly. But at full price, I think you could probably find a much more satisfying way to spend your money. The Big Boy said, we know you don't much like modern tanks, but which is your favourite? I'm planning to build a Lancaster bomber. Do you think that just using black primer to paint the black parts would be practical? I think I'm going to do the same thing with the white on an RAF Coastal Command B-17. I'm not much into picking favourites, but I guess the Leopard 2 is kind of interesting looking, off the top of my head. Being that I'm not really interested in modern armour, I don't really keep up with what kind of tanks are around, so I don't really know them all, but I think the Leopard 2 is kind of cool. I'm sure that using black primer for black parts of the Lancaster would be practical. It would definitely work, I mean, it is black paint, but primer is usually a bit matte, and from what I can tell, the black paint on those planes was a bit glossy, or maybe a satin black. Maybe the ones in wartime service were matte. I don't know, I'm not a plane surgeon. It would of course work, but depending on what you're trying to go for, I might consider just using a gloss black. Or maybe you could use a satin or gloss clear coat over the black primer. Burner581 said, you told in videos and stream before that you like weird tank designs. My question is, what do you think of prototype and theoretical tanks from that time? For example, the Rat and the IS-4. I think they're quite interesting. I enjoy seeing different ideas and concepts that people come up with, even if they're just a little bit absurd like the Rat. In fact, I think prototypes and such are where a lot of the unique and weird tank designs are. I mean, most of them wouldn't be weird and unique if they were mass-produced. It's fun to look at the designs and see models of them and things like that. Sneaky Zaku said, on the same subject as the above, I found this hyper unusual tank, designed for removing obstacles. It is called a Ram Tiger, and it is glorious, do you not think? It's apparently based off the Porsche Tiger. Never made, but was at least drawn up. This is an entertaining design. For some reason it makes me think of a Star Trek shuttle or something like that. I think there was some discussion and the consensus was that it didn't seem like it would be much good for ramming because of low speed, and I can totally see why. I would imagine that hull casing, whatever you might call it, would be quite heavy, but I suppose it could be hollowed out a bit to cut some weight. Who knows? It certainly is an interesting idea. Everyone else just attached a bulldozer blade to the front of a regular tank design, or just used bulldozers, which is of course the sensible thing to do. But it's also a fun idea to have a specially designed obstacle rammer. James Valentine said, after building the adorable 250/8 with the cute little 75mm, do you think the Rubicon expansion could be used to make a Warlord Hetzer, the flak variant's open hull, into an Aufklärung, Aufkajeka, the thing in the picture below? I don't know if you have a Warlord one laying around planned for later, but perhaps the Rubicon one you built can give you an educated guess. I do have a Warlord Hetzer on the way, but I haven't got it yet so I can't really have a look at it. And staring at the Rubicon model hasn't really helped, but I can't see why you couldn't make it work, especially with the open-topped version by Warlord. The Rubicon expansion does have a couple of guns and gun shieldy bits that you could try to do this with. You'd likely have to perform a bit of extra plastic surgery to get it to look right, but I don't see why it couldn't be done. If you are planning on doing this, it would be awesome if you shared some progress pictures with us. Smoes said, what is your favourite cuisine? I guess my favourite is what I feel like at the time. I mean, I really like pizza, but if I have a craving for burritos or something, I'm more likely to say that's my favourite. It's that old indecisiveness and the fact that I don't much feel like picking a favourite when there are so many good options to enjoy. Max W said, have you ever heard of the YouTube channel Never a Pro? His channel is very small, but his videos are of great quality. He deserves more subscribers in my book. I'd not heard of that channel until now. He's only got a handful of videos, but from what I saw they're quite well done. Seems like he's mostly into planes, fiddly ones with all kinds of rigging at that. Definitely go and check his channel out. I know a lot of you guys are into planes, so it's probably right up your alley. The channel is Never a Pro, but I'll add a link in the description to make it easy for you. On last week's Ask Herbert Erpaderp, Emil Builds SE said, can you build the Minicraft 1/144th scale B-24 soon? I don't really have any immediate plans to build that plane, but if a whole load of you really want to see me build it, let me know, and I'll re-evaluate my plans. As it stands now, I have a handful of other kits that I'm more excited to work on, like the Warlord Hetzer I mentioned earlier. I've also found my next victim for post-apocalypse conversion. But yes, I will build the B-24 at some point soon, just not right away. Max W said, if you were to go to New Zealand, you should check out Peter Jackson's replica World War I aircraft. That would be amazing. I would definitely check that out. I think there's also a World War II exhibition there as well, but I'm not entirely sure. I was made aware of Peter Jackson's planes a while ago when I saw a video on Tested about it, or a picture or something like that. It seems pretty rad, so I would definitely go there. Fog of War said, it's nice to be missed. I am back, despite leaving parts of my car engine scattered along the highway across the Nullarbor. I am working on some new videos, mostly to do with Nam. Mr. Erpaderp, I know you are not a fan of Team Yankee, but would Aussies in the jungle of Vietnam appeal to you? I'm building an Australian cavalry troop at the moment, so there will be videos about that. I would recommend not leaving engine parts anywhere other than the engine compartment, but I'm glad you're back. I do find the Nam setting more interesting than Team Yankee. I mean, I might not actually play Nam either, but I definitely have been considering getting some Centurion Mark Vs. I'm not sure if I would put together an actual force though. The Pig said, is that a painted mouse I see? Maybe, yes. It's not completed though, it still needs a bit of work on the tracks and then some weathering, but it should be done pretty soon. It will be the model painting video for June. And with that, the question times have come to a close. Now it's time to check out what's been happening in the Miniatures channel on Discord. Max W shared this Pegasus Hobbies 1/72nd scale Schwere Kleiner Panzer. As Max said, it's a heavy small tank. It's small, but it's heavy. Penfold 07's Chieftain is coming along nicely. He's now waiting for some more black paint to arrive before he can paint it in the standard green and black scheme. McGobbo has shared another excellent Necromunda Orlok Ganger. And this fellow. This is a Reaper Aurelio Endrino Bonehenge. This looks really good. It's apparently painted to a tabletop standard, but I would say it's a little bit better than that. Nice work. Top Bunk Productions has shared some Daleks. This one has been modified with some DAS modelling clay and painted to look all blown up and gooey. Ew, Dalek goo. And here's two more in progress Dalek Rex, next to a nearly finished intact Dalek. And here's some excess bits for Dalek debris, and some plant bits for stringy mutant bits. Interesting materials to use. Ratto has shared some outdoor gaming. This looks like a pretty good time and I'm kind of jealous. It would be a bit uncomfortable to do this here, and all of the models would melt into little puddles of plastic and metal. And here's some pictures taken at Nopat and Taktika Club in Helsinki. I know I said that absolutely perfectly. Excellent stuff. Harry is Mildly Happy shared this Magmadroth. This is a really awesome looking model, and I kind of want one, though it's probably not really in my price range. Here's some progress. Looking good so far. And even more progress. In these pictures, some dry brushing has been applied and it looks quite effective. And here some gold bits have been added. What an awesome model. The Big Boy said, how could I forget to share the best of my diecasts? Der Sturmtiger. What a beast. He also shared this destroyed T-34, which he plans to make into a diorama. And now for some Halo stuff. This is a UNSC Marathon class heavy cruiser, and it's escorted by a pair of Paris class heavy frigates. Then this Epoch class heavy carrier. This seems to have an escort too, but I don't know what it is. Next up is a Punic class supercarrier. This one stores frigates on its belly. The big boy has also been working on an Academy Hawker Typhoon, and here's some progress on that. Looks good so far. Australian Train Nut asked if he could post pictures of trains, and of course trains are definitely welcome here. Any kind of model is welcome here really. Australian Train Nut has shared a bunch of Australian models, New South Wales equipment to be more precise. These are all pretty cool. When I see model trains, I really wish I had the space for them. Timbo101 has shared this Airfix 1/72nd scale Warhawk, part of the AVG based in China in the early years of World War II. This is quite nicely done, and I quite like the wire rigging. I'm a fan of planes with the bitey shark teeth on the nose. Very good work. The Tourette's Gamer shared this little Stuart. It looks really nice. Top Bunk thinks it needs more guns, but I think it's fine the way it is. The Lightspore showed us this Warlord Panther. It looks almost ready to panth, just needs a bit of paint. When you do paint it, don't forget to share. And that's it for the models this week. Thank you all for sharing your excellent work. It's always inspiring and makes me want to do even more modelling. Of course, everyone is welcome to share their models, and they can be anything from trains to tractors, even though the most common things posted are tanks and planes, but anything is welcome. And the more the merrier. There's a link to my Discord server in the description. It should be easy enough to navigate to the miniatures channel once you're in there. If you have any questions you would like me to answer on the next Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, put them in the comment section below or on Discord. And don't forget, if you have a question for Barnaby, go ahead and ask. Though do be sure to make it clear that it's a question for Barnaby, and he'll answer next week. Probably. Also, if you haven't already, why not do all the other things like subscribing here on YouTube, following me on social media, and watching me live stream on Twitch. And if you really like the things I do, please consider helping to support the channel over at Patreon, or perhaps by purchasing a mug or shirt from my merch store. Links to all of those things are in the description below. And as always, I shall return soon. So until then, be excellent to each other and thanks for watching. Farewell.